You can see the logarithmic decay in society, in our finances, the way the moral fabric of this country, the way we are viewed around the world, the loss of the petrodollar standard, the detreasurization, the weaponization, all of these things are happening little by little by little by little. Bang. When is that bang? Don't know. But if you, look, I think people know that there's something wrong. And even if you can't articulate it, you know something's wrong. And I don't know how fast before it breaks, but I can tell you that you don't wait for it to break. You don't wait for your house to be on fire to pay your home insurance premium, and you don't wait until you're on death's door to do your life insurance. And it's one of these deals where I think you take a look at all of the facts and weigh them and say that this is a trend that appears to be gaining steam. And I mean, look, the few times that we've spoken, everything we've talked about seems to be happening and accelerating. I'm not a soothsayer. This is the only thing in my career that I've seen clearly, and it freaks me out because I had the courage to, in 2019 and 2020, and ever since, in 3,000 YouTube videos, say this, and it's documented and it's happening, and it scares me. It does, because it scares me how fast it's happening, and I don't see the time when I think about it, and I don't see what happens after it happens.
Did you know that 1 trillion seconds ago was over 31,000 years ago? That's the scale of debt our country faces. Over $200 trillion. Andy Schectman warns that our economy is on the brink of collapse. The petrodollar is losing its grip. Interest rates are spiking, and our nation's wealth is crumbling. Insiders are already aware, and when the collective realization hits, it will be too late. Our colossal debt will lead to one of three outcomes: inflation, default, or finding a villain to blame. With the shift of power from the west to the east, this economic downfall isn't a far-off conspiracy. It's a documented trend that's accelerating. Schectman compares it to not waiting for your house to catch fire to pay for home insurance. The time to act is now. The insiders have been preparing, but the masses are still unaware. When the collective awareness hits and people rush to protect their wealth, it will be too late. The orchestrated economic failure could lead to a massive shift in global power dynamics, fundamentally altering our place in the world.
It or the bang is when everyone in a coordinated fashion realizes that what has been done slowly and methodically is inevitable, and we need to get out of dollars now. And when you realize that everything in this country that makes people feel wealthy is inversely correlated to a spike in interest rates. And it allows us to have a villain. That villain is Xi Jinping and Putin and OPEC. How could they do it to us? That all at once moment, which starts out where the insiders know what's happening, and that's why you see this little by little part. That's where the people blow it off as inconsequential and a nothing burger, and it will never happen. Could never happen here, right? Look at all the things that have happened in the last 3 years that could never happen here. Well, these people, because of its slow, methodical pace, this little by little, they could never think it could happen here, and they blow it off and poo-poo it. But the all-at-once moment, when the collective awareness of the world realizes this is a trend that is happening and that we are moving away from a country that is immeasurably indebted, over 200 million, a trillion seconds ago was 31,688 years ago. We will never pay this off. We will either inflate, we will default, or we will find a villain. And I think they've chosen what's behind door number 3, to find a villain, to incentivize. And we've talked about Jared Bernstein before, a man, the lead economic advisor, this knucklehead, he's the lead guy who's just talking into Biden's ear, telling him what to do. He wants to lose the reserve status. Well, what better way to do it than to weaponize the dollar and go sign an executive order to go green, allow the coalition of all these countries to find safety in numbers, and then let the country fall apart back at home. When you talk about the realization that this is real, and people then go from, wow, it's not a nothing burger, and run, that's when it becomes real. I don't know when that is. When is the collective realization? Could be next week, could be 3 years from now. I don't know, but the inevitability of it, to me, is that we are watching a shift of natural resources and of power move from the west to the east. And at some point that will become, I think, evident to the masses. When that happens, that's the it. And that's when it happens. Just like that's the all at once when you go over the waterfall. It's as if they are purposely overwhelming the U.S. economy to create systemic failure, destroying capitalism and our country from within. Cloward and Piven specifically mentioned targeting America's largest cities for their colossal welfare push. The primary objective of the strategy is to create chaos with the hopes of destroying America's capitalistic economy and replacing it with a socialist system that includes guaranteed incomes. A massive drive to recruit the poor onto the welfare rolls. The point of surging welfare claims is to enroll as many individuals as it takes to send the United States into an economic crisis. Well, think of 17 million people in here. Cloward and Piven reveal the best way to achieve their goals is to create a new loyal voting bloc out of the rapidly increasing number of welfare recipients. By delivering millions of dollars in cash benefits to the masses, expecting the masses will deliver their loyalty to their benefactors, develop an army of loyal serfs who will work to destroy America, whether knowingly or unknowingly. All these illegal immigrant children will be added to the welfare rolls and can be counted on to vote for larger government. Furthermore, both Cloward and Piven agreed that the mainstream media would play a critical role in their organized attack against America. To quote Cloward and Piven, as the crisis develops, it will be important to use the mass media to inform the broader liberal community about the inefficiencies and injustices of welfare. Now think about all of this stuff and ask yourself, is it possible that this is what they are actually trying to do? I mean, Obama went there, as did let's see, Bill Barr, Eric Holder, Madeleine Albright, Jared Bernstein. They all went there in the 60s, and Cloward and Piven were teaching. Now, I don't know if they learned from them or after them, but this was a tenet that was taught at Columbia. Now, I mean, fine line between conspiracy and reality, but when you read that and think about it, they are overwhelming the inner cities. They are overwhelming the entitlement system. They are, the left-leaning media doesn't do a bad job. They do no job of telling us what's going on except create divisiveness. And all of this stuff, you can't make it up. Is it too stupid to be stupid? Did we really let all these people into our country? Is our electoral system fair? Do people go up to bed at night after the votes start getting tabulated in November and wonder, are they going to wake up to something different? Is the justice system deploying equally, the justice equally, or is there two-tiered? All of these things you start to wonder, and then look at what's happening to the inner cities and ask yourself, is it too stupid to be stupid, or is it not? Could it be planned? Is this the foundation to incentivize the world, like via the Operation Sandman, dump the dollars in the treasuries, create a massive surge of inflation, interest rates spike to the moon, and everything resets? Dollars, the banks, the insurance companies, the stock market, the bond market, everything. But have no fear, because guess who's here? Lael Brainerd, the number 2 at the U.S. government for economic policy. She worked at the Treasury. She worked under Powell at the Fed. And if somehow this current administration keeps power, she will lead the Fed. And she was number 2 under Powell. And she is a modern monetary theorist. She developed the CBDC while at the Fed with MIT. She ran Point for Fed Now, which came out 6 months ago, which is Venmo on steroids, backed by the Fed. This is what she wants. Culling of all the banks, a central bank issued digital currency, print, start over. And the interesting thing, Michelle, that I don't think we've talked about is, look at the unfunded liabilities. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, government, military pensions. Who's that owed to? That's us. How about all the treasuries? Who's been selling them? Oh yeah, that's all them. Who's been buying them? Oh yeah, that's all us. The hedge funds, the money markets, mutual funds, and every one of us chasing yield, leaving the banks, buying treasuries. So it's a whole hell of a lot easier to default on us, where only, 20-25% of the debt is owed to them. It's all owed to us. We are so sorry this happened. Michelle, just sign on the dotted line. We know you lost everything. Take the CBDC, will make you whole. And this is all about pride and nationalism and patriotism, because they did this to us. So when you talk about, do we fall on the sword and default? Do we inflate, which leads to default? Or do we just find a villain? And that's why when I'm giving a talk next month at Rick Rule's conference here in Boca, I was bummed to hear you won't be there, but I know your company will be there, but you won't. The title of my first speech was going to be "It's Too Stupid to Be Stupid," but now it's something a little bit more political. It's the same thing. Could we really be that foolish to think all of these things that we've done around the globe and at home won't have consequences? Or are the people not that stupid and really realizing this is how you you get to option 3, and that is to find a villain that will make people universally accept a CBDC when the dollar gets forsaken. Now, I don't know if that happens or not. Everything I said up until that point is factual, but right. I guess you just have to let your mind wander a little bit. He is a smart man, and he, say what you want about his sometimes buffoonery, the way he would speak. I would take his policies any day over the current administration, and God help us if he doesn't win. It would just be my personal decision or opinion. But I don't like, here again, the continuation of sanctions and threats. And, you know, he's talking about sanctioning countries who would join the BRICS or would not use the dollar. And he's talking about a massive devaluation of the dollar, you know, choosing inflation, lowering rates and inflating and devaluing the dollar. What that just means, it's easier to pay off our mountain of debt. He may keep the ball up in the air a little bit longer, and he may inspire concern and fear by some of our foes who are not afraid at all of the current administration, and he may make things better. I don't know if we've crossed that Rubicon, Michelle. Part of me feels like we have, and I wish I wasn't so concerned about, you know, the fairness of the election process. And indeed, if we will wake up again to another questioning of the electoral system, either way you look at it, let's just say he wins. I say we have a better chance of pulling out of this nosedive. Look, Americans have done the best with their back against the wall. The one thing that we need that I don't know that either candidate is capable of doing is inspiring unity in this country. We need to be united in order to pull ourselves up. We need to all be Americans, regardless of where we've come from.